All right, and the moment you've been waiting for. I know that you've all been waiting to see Griff come onto the stage today. He's a longtime ETHDenver presenter. He's been with us many years in a row. He's a community favorite, kind of an all-star. Mr. Griff Green, welcome back. We're so happy to have you.
Hey, Shannon, good to see you. It's been a while.
I know. It's actually been a year since we saw each other last year at ETHDenver in real life. Where are you in the world?
I'm in beautiful Ecuador, actually. I have this. I feel like I'm staying in a little princess castle. I have this beautiful view.
That's awesome.
It's really nice.
It's snowing here in Denver, so get some sunshine for those of us that are coming to you from the winter parts of the world. But we're really excited to have you here. Yeah, right. You don't feel bad. We're excited to have you presenting today. You're going to talk to us about the Commons Stack.
Yeah. My goal is to talk about ending the psychosis that we have around public goods. And, shall I just get started?
Let's do it. Take it away.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So as Shannon said, my name's Griff Green, and I started a nonprofit many years ago called Giveth, and have been living in the blockchain nonprofit space for a while. I've learned lots of things, and the biggest thing that I think that we often forget is that we are broken when it comes to public goods. But before I talk about our collective psychosis, I just want to talk about a little bit about nonprofits and the idea of a not-for-profit organization. Anytime the nonprofit organization is like meeting together, trying to create a strategy meeting, there's an elephant in the room. There's something that they refuse to bring up, even though it's in the back of all of their minds. But before I talk about that elephant in the room, I want to just like open our minds about nonprofits. Nonprofits create value. This is, if there's one thing I want people to understand after this talk, nonprofits are creating value. Whether it's a social impact nonprofit that's taking care of refugees, or feeding the hungry, sheltering the homeless, taking care of orphans, any of these social welfare programs are creating value for society as a whole. And the environmental nonprofits, how much value does clean air have, clean water, maintaining biodiversity? These things are obviously critical for our success on this little spaceship we call planet Earth. We cannot survive without stewarding this planet. So these nonprofits are clearly creating value. And there are a couple of nonprofit organizations, like sectors, that you wouldn't think about, but like cultural heritage and making space for arts and museums. Understanding where we've been will help us get to where we want to be, right? And protecting our cultural heritage is important. It's so important. These nonprofits are also creating value. And then it's so obvious when you look at the open source space, especially in this community, how much value is being generated by the nonprofit sector. I mean, just look at the Penguin box over here. These are all just different varieties of Linux, an open source operating system. And Wikipedia, Mozilla, VLC, Android, these are huge, like, impactful organizations that live in the open source system. And honestly, they're not rewarded for the value that they're creating. And this is because our culture is dominated by this monopolistic economy. There's kind of the economy that we live in, and the economy is incredible at providing excludable goods. If you want a cell phone, you can go buy it. You want to fly to Ecuador and hang out with me over here? Come on down. You can buy an airplane. You can buy a ticket. It's not that expensive. It's incredible that what the free market has done for excludable goods. But public goods are non-excludable. And this is the big challenge. Non-excludable goods in general are considered a market failure. And often, when you want to provide a non-excludable resource, the best solution is to exclude people. So if we're in Denver, we're hanging, and there's a lot of national parks. national parks, the forests. This is, in general, it's supposed to be a non-excludable resource. But to create funding streams, they exclude people. They say, listen, you want to drive your car here, you got to pay $15 for a park pass. This helps us fund operations. It's not a bad thing. There's no wrong way to fund public goods, but it is a challenge. It is a problem with the way we structure society. If it's also obvious in the open source space. If you want to create a business model around open source, the most popular one is a freemium model. You know, give 98% of the people a decent service, but then do some coding in a closed source way, and sell that to pay for the rest of what you want to do, which is actually providing free and like art, providing your art to people who want to be a part of it. This is a sacrifice, and the sacrifice is the elephant in the room. Every nonprofit organization, every public goods organization, every organization who's trying to create a non-excludable resource that benefits society relies on sacrifice. This is not good or bad. It is just reality in the system we have today. If you donate to a nonprofit, obviously that's a sacrifice. The money game, if the economy was a game, money would be points and everyone's going for a high score. How often do you play games where you give points away on purpose to support other games? That's kind of crazy. Donors are sacrificing in the economic game. And that sacrifice actually taints the money, right? Because if you think about a nonprofit with a CEO getting a fair market salary, that's almost not culturally acceptable. Everyone who works for a nonprofit and gets paid by donations is expected to sacrifice. This is the culture that we live in today. And I would argue that it is a collective psychosis. We forget, because the economic system that we live in today is so dominant, we forget that public goods have value, and coordinating value production around public goods needs better systems. And we need to break out of this collective psychosis. I would argue that as a society, we are exploiting the altruists. And this is a bold statement, and but it's real. It's something I've experienced. It's something many people who've worked for nonprofits have experienced. It's altruistic burnout, a lack of recognition and reward for the work that you're doing and the value you're creating. By having systems that don't recognize that value, we are exploiting the altruists. Of course, I shouldn't just talk about nonprofits, especially since they're a minority of where public goods funding come from. Public goods are generally funded by governments. Governments also rely on sacrifice. They create bureaucratic systems that force people to pay taxes every year and fight through some paperwork so that they can give some of the money that they earn by doing work to an organization that most people would argue are poorly run and poorly incentivized to actually provide the public goods services that they expose to create. And the worst part about governments, because honestly, governments and nonprofits are providing immense value, immense value. I don't mean to talk trash about anybody or any organization that is funding public goods. They are heroes. The challenge that governments have is that they create a monopoly over every public goods vertical that they touch. They control public infrastructure. They control public education, public health, environmental regulations. Really nonprofits only step up when governments are failing. In Venezuela, clean water nonprofits are very important and impactful. A clean water nonprofit doesn't need to exist in the States because there is access to clean water in most places. And this isn't anyone's fault. This is not a conspiracy. And honestly, there's a lot of things that got us here that make sense, right? Even though this is madness, there's a method. There's problems we need to solve. Specifically, the relation to the bottom line and the quality of the public goods service. This is a general issue with budgets. You know, if you just have a budget and you want to maximize for that budget, then you reduce the quality of the service that you provide. And this is very prevalent in nonprofits, where they have very limited scarce resources and they have to choose in many circumstances to provide a lower quality service than they would prefer. This is the collective psychosis that we need to overcome. And this is the collective psychosis that we need to battle against, because it's not just the systems, but it's also our understanding of public goods that is the real fight. And with the Common Stack, we're trying to create a third way. Nonprofits are the main grassroots way to fund public goods today, and governments are the main top-down way to fund public goods today. And the Common Stack hopes to create a third way that is also more like nonprofits, because it's a grassroots method, but also changes the structure and the system in place that exists in nonprofits, so that we can recognize the future value that the nonprofit can create. We want to reward the heroes, the altruists, make sure they feel not only rewarded financially, but also acknowledged for the work that they're doing. It's not all financial. But we need to create a system that will provide quality public goods services. And the free market actually points to this. What has happened with stocks and with shares, and the ability to have a publicly traded share of ownership of these organizations, is that it's actually created a system that rewards quality service. Apple, for instance, is the highest publicly traded company in the world, and obviously they provide nice products. That's kind of their meme that they're doing. Same with Tesla. Tesla has a higher market cap than all other vehicle stocks in the United States combined. This is because they provide a quality service. They are fighting for customers. There is competition. They're not part of some monopoly system. They are competing for the customer's attention and business. And so our mission, the Common Stack mission, is to develop microeconomies that will incentivize and create reward systems for the continued creation of public goods. To do this, we are not trying to take a top-down approach. We want to empower communities. We want to create documentation and tooling that will allow communities to design and deploy their own microeconomies, so that we can see a viral spread and improve this design iteratively. We're built on the shoulder of giants. Elinor Ostrom is a major influence for us. She won a Nobel Prize for disproving the tragedy of the commons in the 90s. And she very eloquently states, "There's no reason to believe that bureaucrats and politicians, no matter how well-meaning, are better at solving problems than the people on the spot who have the strongest incentive to get the solution right." Our goal with the Common Stack is to take the lessons that Elinor Ostrom has learned through her case studies and integrate the public goods funding that blockchain has discovered. Blockchain, by creating their own economy, has created systems of an open global payment system that everyone can use. That Zcash has created zero knowledge commons. They actually pay researchers to investigate cryptography, and all it's open source. It's amazing. Primecoin created an economy around discovering prime numbers. Okay, if we can create an economy that rewards the public discovery of prime numbers, I think we can create an economy around any public good. And another thing that's really interesting lately is all of these governance tokens. You know, we have this, there is this constant challenge that we have, that things that have qualitative value are difficult for us to appreciate the value. But governance over public goods clearly has value. Biden and Trump spent over $6 billion to get to fight to get a $400K salary position. That's ridiculous. Clearly, it's not about the salary, right? They're fighting over power. They want power over the public goods verticals. And Uniswap provides a service. YFI provides a service. Tornado Cash. These are, in many ways, public goods services, and governance over them has value. And these tokens have all proved it. Another influence of the Common Stack is David Bollier. He really coined the best definition of a commons that I've heard. A commons is neither the resource, the community that gathers around it, nor the protocols for its stewardship, but the dynamic interaction between all of these elements. The commons that we're building is similar to a DAO. And it's not about the smart contracts, and it's not about the people, and it's not about the public good that the people are trying to create. It's about the interactions between all of these things and making sure that they have healthy relationships. And one of the things that David Bollier has constantly reminded us is that the next big thing will be a lot of small things. The Common Stack is not trying to create the next global public goods economy. We're trying to enable lots of small local communities to create their own economies, their own microeconomies for focused purposes. We want to create what we generally call cyber physical commons, where we can use the blockchain incentive mechanisms and apply them to physical world applications like roads, right? The problem is that in the blockchain space right now, we do not follow the same patterns that normal engineers in the default world will use. Computer science doesn't have, it is different generally than public infrastructure, but blockchain-based economies like public infrastructure are difficult to change. And so we need to take better steps to validate our designs as we iterate them. And this is one of the things that's really slowing down the Common Stack, honestly, is that we need token engineering. We need to take general engineering approaches. This is the Tacoma Narrows Bridge in Washington State. And when this happened, they were validating designs. Public infrastructure takes years of design validation, but they discovered that there's like a fluttering effect when the wind goes through certain structures that can create systems like this. And now every bridge builder from here on out has that in their modeling software to make sure that this doesn't happen. We need this for DeFi. We need this for blockchain. We need token engineering. And this is why the Common Stack is so excited to partner with our first commons, which will be launching in the next month or two, that the token engineering community is going to be the first user of the Common Stack product. And their goal is to advance the field of token engineering, to provide resources so that the DeFi developers don't make the same mistakes over and over again. So we have models that they can use to develop rapidly, just like Open Zeppelin provides smart contracts for people to reuse. We need design validation, a library of design validation that can be reused. The biggest thing that there's so many aspects to point out. The TE Commons they have a beautiful structure, and they've really scaled horizontally into working groups. One of my favorite working groups that I participate the most in is the TEC Params, where we're trying to fight technocracy. We're challenging the crypto technocracy. We're in a very privileged position in the token engineering community where we can actually allow the community to design their own economy. But we need the tools for them to do this. And crypto technocracy is a real thing. I don't know of a single DAO where the community actually picked the parameters. It's always the developers. Who picked 32 Ether as the staking? No fault to anyone. It's very difficult. This is a difficult challenge to educate the community to an extent where they can design their own economy. but we're creating the tools to do that.
And we love it. This is exactly the stuff that gets us all so excited, Griff. Bottom up building, everybody's included. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shannon.
We're so happy to have you. Where can people find you? What's the best way to get in touch?
Obviously, Twitter is always good. There's also, if you want to learn more about the TEC, there is a talk tomorrow by Livia, who's going to present the TEC in full for 15 minutes. And you can follow us on Twitter at CommonStack or at TECMNS at TE Commons.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. We love having you back here for ETHDenver Virtual 2021.
Thank you, Shannon.
Have a good one. Enjoy the birds. Enjoy the beach while we're all freezing in Berlin and Denver and different places in the world.